Good evening, and welcome to the General Society of Mechanics and Tradesmen of the City of New York and the 8th season of the Artisan Lectures. I am Karen Taylor, Program Director of the General Society, and this lecture actually marks the final Artisan Lecture in the series. This program is supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. I wanted to also express our thanks this evening to Thomas Donahue, who's created a special window display in honor of this event. The General Society was founded in 1785 by 22 artisans. These reflected different trades that included carpenter, silversmith, and blacksmith. Today, our 233-year-old organization continues to serve the people of the City of New York through our cultural and educational programs. These include our Lock Museum, which you're more than welcome to visit after the program tonight, our tuition-free Mechanics Institute, and of course the General Society Library, which you're in. And finally, our lecture series. Now, our lecture series is now nearly 200 years old, so I'm very pleased and we're going to have another fantastic lecture that's going to be part of that series. Tonight, we are celebrating the work of Aurora Lampworks. Projects undertaken by the artisans of Aurora Lampworks include the restoration and replication of light fixtures in some of New York City's most cherished and celebrated landmark buildings. And some of these remarkable projects, because there are so many. I had a brief conversation with Dawn before the start of the program, and really, Aurora Lampworks have literally illuminated the important buildings of New York City. So just to tell you, these include the restoration of 22 historic chandeliers at the New York Public Library at 42nd and 5th, various rooms at the Park Avenue Armory, replication of historic fixtures at the Apple Store at 940 Madison Avenue, and replication of historic fixtures at Carnegie Hall. As Dawn will explain tonight, lighting fixtures not only tell stories about history, but also science and advances in technology. Many fixtures have been around long enough to undergo several technology upgrades, and as I said, Dawn will address this. It's now my huge pleasure to introduce to you Dawn Ladd, founder and president of Aurora Lampworks.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Victoria and Karen, for inviting me to do this talk and for providing vegan treats. I really appreciate that. It meant a lot to me. I want to say how much gratitude that I feel and Aurora feel and other tradespeople feel to have this organization promoting us, putting us out in front, giving us credit for the work that we do to keep our magnificent city magnificent. There have been so many technological advances in the last 100 or 120 years, and so I'm going to talk about some of those and how they've influenced the work that we do. I can just sum it up by saying it's a really good time to be in the lighting business because there's so many exciting changes that are happening, and we can be part of that. Aurora specializes as Karen just said, specializes in the restoration of historic lighting fixtures. Sometimes it can be an heirloom, a family heirloom. Sometimes it can be a flea market find. And oftentimes it's a landmark or an iconic New York City building. Whatever it is, no 2 days are ever the same. All the projects are always different. I'm a little nervous. I hope I get less nervous as I go on. So I would like to start with one very notable and important building in New York City that we have been privileged to work on, and that is this one. As Karen just explained about how important and how old this organization is for tradespeople, it was our absolute delight to do some work here. I've been to a number of the artisan series, lecture series here, and I have to say that I always look at lighting, and and I noticed that the picture lights along the wall were in need of some tender loving care. And so we decided that we would like to make a contribution to the General Society and to redo the lamps. So I'm gonna talk a little bit before we have a dramatic moment and turn on the lights. I'm going to talk a little bit about task lighting in general. So let me see if I can get this thing to work. So here is the room that we're sitting in. And so task lights, picture lights, and lights that light up the sides, sort of like these, the bookshelf lights, they're usually elongated. They're meant to collect the light from inside of the housing and to direct it towards a wall, oftentimes a painting, art, or in this case, shelving. So what you see here is not the General Society's picture lights, but a very typical one, and a similar sort of evolution that the General Society's lights would have gone through. So here you have a picture light, and you can see that has this beautiful ribbed silvered glass in the in lining on the inside, and that was meant to reflect the light, and to collect the light, and to push it out into the direction that's needed. Here's the problem with that. You can see the wiring that on here, because it's kind of an enclosed tubing. It gets to be very hot, and so we find with a lot of picture lights that we have redone that you get this situation where you can see the wires are burnt out. These type of lights lend themselves very easily to fluorescent tubes, and you can see here that someone is holding that fluorescent tube because of the longness. It just was a natural fit. And when we first restored the fixtures here at the General Society, that was what they had in it. They had gone from, there was evidence that they had gone from incandescent, and somebody had then put in fluorescent light, and then we turned them into LEDs. So with that, why don't we flick them on? Hey, hi, Tom. Perfect timing, Tom. You walked in, we turned on the lights for you. That's great. I know it. So, I want to take a run over to the lights over here, and I can show you some of what we did in here, and then you'll see it up on the screen as well. So here we go. These lights, have arms so they're stationary. There's no adjustment here, and so what we did was we kept the interior glass, the ribbed glass mirror, even though it's actually not functional any longer, because the LED itself is sort of directional. But we did make it so that it's rotation, so that we can aim this, and you can see we can aim it in such a way that the light can get from the top bookshelf books all the way down to the bottom. And so there you have it. With this, these fixtures went from incandescent to fluorescent and to LED. I've got some pictures here to show you. So this is what they look like right now. That's a side view, and then you can see that there's the mirror that we left in there, and then we installed the LED in the center, and this is what it looks like if you were looking straight up into it. Okay. So again, this fixture went from incandescent to fluorescent to LED. Because of LED tape, thank you. Because LED tape is so incredibly small and LEDs are so small, lighting people and lighting fixture designers are able to do all kinds of new things. I don't know how many of you have actually seen a piece of LED tape, but I have one here, and it's just remarkable in how much light is put out with very little energy consumption. They last a long time, and I know that a lot of us really had a bad feeling about LEDs when they first came out, but they've really been perfected. And as you can see, they give a pretty nice, warm, kind of incandescent-looking light. So along these lines, Aurora has restored any number of picture lights, and we decided to take advantage of this new technology and have created our own line of picture lights. And so you'll see here that this is our picture light. And oops, I got so many things in my hand here. And we did this recently at the Brooklyn Designs at the Brooklyn Museum show. And so here's our picture light, not in a traditional horizontal position, but in a vertical one. We've got the satin brass, and then in the middle we have a nickel finish, and then a dark bronze finish. And we did this just sort of for drama and effect. Here's a more traditional use of the picture light. And you can see that the way that we've made it, it rotates. And here's another picture here, and we actually have one here that afterwards. So this is our new picture light, and you're welcome to come and play with it afterwards. But you'll notice that this is able to, I can't do it right now, but this is able to rotate around, so that when you put it up on the whatever you're lighting, you're able to rotate this so that you get the best light that you want and the most coverage that you need. It takes a little bit of the stress out of placing the picture light. Okay. So here's just some basic information on the picture light, just for anybody that really wants to understand how powerful they are. This tape that I just showed you, you get about it consumes about 3 watts for a foot of it, and produces 292 lumens, which is the equivalent of a 25-watt incandescent bulb. The difference being that it lasts for about 10 times as long, it uses a fraction of the energy, and it gives pretty good light. Most of them are dimmable now. Aha. The next project I'd like to talk about is City Hall Park, the gas lamp posts. This was a job that we did quite a while ago, and I think it's interesting because it shows that some of the technology is linear, but then sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's a switchback. And so these fixtures were always gas when originally. The park was built in the 1800s. It went through any number of changes, and it got bigger, and then it got smaller, and then it went through a lot of different changes. But the way that it is right now, there are 18 of these lampposts scattered throughout the park. And as you can see, this is what we went when we found, and you can see that there were just a pile of these. And right here, we see evidence that at some point, these were high-pressure sodium. So these particular lamps were originally gas lamps. Then in about 1903, they were electrified. And then about 1945, 1950, they were high-pressure sodium. And then in 1999, they were changed over to metal halide. Now, this is a really interesting photo, I think, because you see that there's actually, this is the lantern head, but there's no socket in there. There's nothing in there. It's empty. And this was to the best that the lighting designers, Klein, Bettridge, and Bernstein, came up with an idea that the lamp, the lighting is housed up here, and it just shines down. So all you really see is sort of a clear container of beautiful beveled glass here, beveled glass there, and the lamp up here. Our job was to restore all the bases of the fixtures of the lampposts, and to marry this head of this light, which was designed, was fabricated by Century Electric in Long Island. Interesting other note about this is that they wanted to put this 6-ounce or 8-ounce cast eagle on top, which was all well and good, but it did create an interesting problem, which I'll get into down the road. So here we are, picking up the lampposts and hauling them away, like really unearthing them, digging them out. It was like excavation site. And we cast the interiors of the lampposts, and right over here, when afterwards, you're welcome to go and look at the wooden mold that is made of the piece, and then that is pushed into sand, and when it comes out, it leaves a vacuum or a space, and then that's where you pour the metal into. So that's how the interiors were made. It was a combination of blacksmithing and casting and fabrication. So here are the Blacksmith Team, and I have to say at this point that Tom Ryan is in the audience, who is, in my opinion, the best blacksmith that I've ever met. Tom, this project was before we knew each other. So this was the Blacksmith Team that they're now bending the metal, and this is Norman, who is contemplating his next move here of how to join the casting with the frame. These fixtures were so tall that in our old space, we couldn't set them up inside. We had to bring them out onto the sidewalk in order to make sure that they were straight and plumb. And so there you see them. They were like these little soldiers out there on J Street down in Brooklyn. So this is where it got interesting, because the 4 lampposts on the steps of City Hall, they wanted to, for nostalgic reasons, for atmospheric reasons, they wanted to bring those back to gas. They wanted to have gas lighting on the steps of City Hall, and so that was a task that we undertook. And as you can see, they wanted the same beveled glass. They wanted the same glass underneath here and on top. So they wanted it to look as much like this. I think this was actually inspired by the original. Now this is only sheet metal copper, so it's very, very thin, but it's got the heavy glass in it now, and it's got an 8-ounce eagle on top. And it's got 3 flames in there. And we noticed it right away. We said, uh-oh, there's going to be a problem here, because when you light this up with the heat, the solder joints are going to melt, and you're going to have a meltdown. And so they recognized that was true. And so what we had to do was to build in a stainless steel frame. Every time you see one of those verticals, there is a piece of stainless steel in there, and so that is what is holding up all of the weight of the glass and the eagle. And they were burning on the steps of City Hall. I was just by there a few days ago and check in on them from time to time, and they're out. And one of the heads has come off, and I'm going to look into that. You can bet and see what's going on there. So. There is the beautiful, isn't it just dainty and beautiful? I think it's just so exquisite, and that's one of the gas lamps that is on the steps. So in this case, the progression of technology went from gas to incandescent to high pressure sodium, and then it took most of them went to metal halide, but the 4 went to gas. So it kind of made a complete circle back to where it started from. Okay, this next project is the Park Avenue Armory, the Veterans Room. How many people have been into the Veterans Room and seen it? Yeah, it's pretty amazing. This fixture right here, we'll see a drawing of it, is a 30-foot wrought iron fixture. And it was lit by gas and only gas. It was designed in the late 1800s by Louis Comfort Tiffany when he was an interior designer. He wasn't known for his glass particularly yet. And they were made by a company, Mitchell Vance Incorporated. So it's a 30-foot wrought iron fixture. Here are the gas jets here, There's gas here, or there was gas here, and a gas on the other one. And then up on the mantle, there were 2 sconces with 54 gas jets each. Now, at some point, so here's a picture of the room when it was first made, and you can see the gas jets here. And they're pretty strange looking. And it's hard to see, but there are the sconces back there. At some point, about 1910, it was electrified, and you can see the sort of mishmash of lamps that were put in there, some for sort of ambient lighting and some to light up on the ceiling. And the sconces back here, they had just kind of like Christmas tree bulbs or something in them. So here's the fixture to get the full effect of it. So 30 feet long, gas here, gas there, gas, and then when we restored it and upgraded it to LED, this became LED, and then all of these auxiliary lights were added. So look at them all. This is a set of 3, that's a set of 3, very, very small, very much like the ones that I showed before. The fixture now has the feeling, the idea was to have the feeling, the ambience of gas, but to also have the fixture be multifunctional and for all of the various events that the Park Avenue Armory does. So here's the original gas pipe, and this is what we found electrified, where we found some half silver bulbs, we found some candelabra bulbs, and what we did was to create these LED discs that light up and very much, I think, look like gas. So here is one of the fixtures this is a prototype, and so this is the original framework, and we've added in a wireway for all of those auxiliary lights that I mentioned before, and for the new sort of LED discs that we put on. Here's more prototype. You can see that little LED strip, just very similar to the one that I showed before. And this is what it looks like as a singular one. And here is the finished, how it looks when it's done. And here are the sconces. So these sconces were very, very challenging. This is the back of the sconces because, as I said, at one point they were wired, but they were wired on the outside. And we thought, why don't they wire it on the inside? What's the matter with that? And we found out very, very soon what was the matter with that. And that is that this acted like a big sort of distributor of the gas. So the gas came in here, ended up in this center area, and then the gas was sent off into each one of these arms. And here it is on the back of it again. So when we tried to run wires down here, we ran into this big block of lead and bronze. And so you can see that we've drawn here where it needed to get drilled out. Of course, we had to ask permission to do this and send pictures and get written submittals, and we didn't make any new holes or touch anything that we didn't have to. And when we had to, we would ask permission and I even think they came out and looked at it and made sure that they were good with it. So we were able to bring our wires down through and do our splice in there and run the electric out. So This is what the solution was for the front of those sconces. They're just chandelier baubles. I think we've all seen them. And we created this little neck, and inside here is a ever so small little LED socket, and then a little LED bulb, and then these we cut off and put into that neck, and that's what. Oops. I'm going to go back. Okay, so there you see it. There it is, all lit. You see the sconces in the background, and you see the LED disc lit up. So what I'd like to do now, and I might need some help doing this, is we have a little display here. And how many people have ever been in a large space and had it lit by gas? You have. What space? Where? Los Angeles. Cool. All right. Okay, Karen, you want to hold this?
Yes.
Yes. Karen, do you have the fire extinguisher? Okay. First, I'm going to light up this. I'm going to light up this. So this is what the LEDs look like. This is what the LEDs look like, and you're welcome to afterwards come up and pick one up and take a look at it and see the LEDs inside. And this is what the incandescents would have looked like. Horrible, awful. I'm going to turn these right off right now. And then we're going to show you what the gas would have looked like. But you have to imagine a lot of gas, a lot of these. I'm ready. Pump up the volume. Can you imagine a huge space like the Park Avenue Armory Veterans Room and the whole building being lit by this? I've seen pictures of major museums that were lit by gas, and this is what it was. And I don't know, it's just amazing to me that there was no really flipping switches. And I mean, there is a little bit of a dimmer quality here. You can turn down the gas if you want to, and you can turn it up if you want to. So the more you turn it up, the bluer the flame, the more complete the combustion process and the more light, but the more energy consumed. It's kind of the same thing as a dimmer switch in our home. So I have two different gas jets here. The ones on the three on the right are called tulip. So because the flame ends up looking kind of like a tulip, and the three on the ends are called tornadoes because they kind of send up something in the middle. And there were all different kinds of gas jets as people tried to perfect them. So this is probably about where it would have been. And if you look at it from a certain angle, these, I think, do a pretty good job of getting the feeling and the look and the light level of gas. So I'm going to shut it off now. We didn't need the fire extinguisher. We're good? Okay. Okay, that's the end of my talk. I would like to thank you, and I'd like to call out some members of the Aurora team. Jenny Goodman, you got to stand up, Jenny, and say hello. Regina Gonzalez, been with the company 13 years. Barbara LeVar, project manager. And now we'll I guess it's a question and answer period. So Regina, you want to come up and answer if I don't know, there might be some questions that you have. I don't know. I don't want to do it by myself. So, okay, great.
Please wait for the microphone to come around for your questions.
Thank you. Who's got questions? All right. What's your question?
Yes, in replacing incandescent or fluorescent lamps with LEDs, are the LEDs made so that they will fit into the existing fixtures, such as bi-pin or type A envelopes?
You want it? Okay. Yes, actually they are. A lot of the retrofits are able to replace many of the halogens and fluorescents and what we all know as the A lamps. So you can get a bi-pin halogen, and it can be an LED, and what is it, like 60 watts? Instead of a 60 watt, you can get like a 3 watt.
It's really pretty amazing. And as the right now we don't do really any projects any longer that are incandescent. It seems like it's all LED, and so manufacturers are really working very hard to get suitable replacements for the bi-pins, as you mentioned, or the screw-in candelabra, medium base. Everybody's on the same bandwagon.
With the LED bulbs over here, hello, I noticed they're very warm. And in the mass market, can you find lights that are this temperature? Or is there something warmer than, there's
Yeah,
2700?
so you mean in the color temperature, in
I
the
do.
Kelvin. So
Yeah.
the sample that Dawn has here is actually a 2200. It's one of the most amber colors that you're going to get. And then you can go up to a 3500, 5000, so on and so forth. As you go up in the scale, the more blue it's going to be. As you go down, the more orange.
Part two, 2200s aren't really on the marketplace.
They're
I mean,
hard to find.
They're specialty.
Yeah, their specialty. I mean, if you're talking about a retrofit of where you screw it in, yes, it'll be hard to find. Your most common Kelvin would be about 2700K, and then go to about a 3000 at your normal standard Home Depot. But if you did need something that was going to be retrofitted in more of a strip version or a bi-pin version, there are ways of getting that color temperature.
There are. By surround or?
Yeah, so if you had an LED strip, for example, what you see here, that is one that was available in a 2200. So this amber light that you're getting here is because the Kelvin is very low on the scale.
That says strip. And so are these, the library lights here?
Yeah, they
Wow,
are.
they're beautiful. You do beautiful work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So much. There are also kind of gels that you can add. For instance, on this candle here, the LED candle, even though it's programmable and dimmable, with what we're doing with the MET is adding little teeny, like what you punch out with a paper punch, and you get like a little teeny round thing, and we're adding that underneath the bulb so that it just changes and warms it up ever so slightly. They're tricks.
Have you done any experimental work or any kind of work using battery power so that you don't have to wire at all?
I think that so we tend to entertain children at our space, and we were able to get tea lights and teach them the importance of LED and how you can utilize them in your home. And they were kind of like little LED, your tea light, like a retrofit into a candle holder kind of thing. Battery operated for our kind of apparatus doesn't really work well for us in our field.
In a commercial space. But what is happening that's really, really exciting is because the LEDs, most of them are 12 volt or 24 volt, is that it's becoming much more feasible to run these lights off of solar panels. And that is something that I'm really excited about getting into. It's just right on the tip of breaking loose. So that's sort of battery, isn't it? So you charge the battery and then you run the LED off of the battery, so on a commercial level.
Can you go back to the armory, the 30-foot wide thing? Can you show us? Okay, well, she's doing. One more back.
They can't hear you.
Okay. No, it's the room, the 31-foot fixture. Yeah. Now the result of that. Can you just show us the result of that again?
The after picture. after
The slide
picture.
when you finished it.
Oh,
After picture.
the slide when it's finished?
Yeah.
You want to see the slide when it's finished?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, where are the little, okay, not there.
Oh, I see. I see what you're getting at. And it's hard to see. Yeah, you know what? We cut it off there. The lights, the little lights that I was mentioning are way up here.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. You don't
Yeah.
have a slide of that.
No,
Because
no.
they don't seem to show very much.
And that's
they're
thank you. That's
idea.
a good thing, because they didn't want them. They wanted them to kind of go away, and there are all kinds of lenses and baffles on them so that they throw the light out, but you don't catch the light in your eyes. So they really do kind of disappear, which is great, and one of the reasons that they don't really make a great photograph.
Dawn, thank you so much. Could you indulge us for a moment? I always love the story of how you got started. I could still picture that mauve lampshade with the fringes. So could you tell us something about that?
Wow, so it was so long ago, and well, first of all, my mother named me Dawn, so I think there's something in the name of light. And I went to Europe for the first time, and I saw they had all these interesting lampshades there, and they did long fringes and different colors and different shapes, and I'd never seen anything other than a pretty much straight, white lampshade, and I was just blown away by it, and I bought one, and I brought it back on the plane with me, and I said to a friend of mine who's a seamstress, I said, "Hey, do you think you could make lampshades?" And she said, "Well, I've never done it, but I'll find out. I'll learn how." And she went to the library. There was no internet. This is quite a while ago. And we started stretching fabric over lampshades. And then I needed lamps to put the lampshades on. So I started going to flea markets and tag sales and auctions and buying lamps that needed lampshades. And then, of course, those same lamps needed to be rewired, so then I learned how to rewire. And then, one thing led to the next. We were in New Haven, Connecticut, and Yale University got a hold of us and really kind of plunged in deep into the lighting. And we did a lot of work on the Yale campuses before I moved to New York, yay. Anything else? Oh, that's it. All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you. I think we're done.
There was a progression of lighting technologies that the current technology is LED. Do you foresee that there may be some technology that is an adjunct or replaces LED?
I'm sure there is. I can't, I can't even imagine all the stuff that's down the road, and with computer technology and what we're able to do. It's hard to keep up with it all. I'm sure that there's something, but probably this is usually new technologies stick around for about 50 years before they evolve into something else. I would think that that with LEDs and the low voltage, that getting more into solar and sort of renewable sources would be the next big step, and that would take us a few decades to get there. I don't have. I'd love to think that at some point there are wireless bulbs. That would be great. I hope it doesn't happen in my lifetime, because we wouldn't have any business. No, you know what I mean? I don't see anything imminently happening with that. Any other questions? Yeah?
Oh.
What?
Well, I think we have the mic now. So maybe we'll ask that you ask Dawn after the end of the presentation. So, Dawn, thank you so much. Thank you. Dawn? Yes. I just want to say, first of all, we want to thank you publicly for our amazing and gorgeous picture lights that have literally transformed the library. So we're very pleased tonight that we were able to have the public launch of our picture lights. So first of all, thank you so much for that. It was very, very generous contribution. And we just want to thank you for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and skill. And as I said at the start of the lecture, you really, so many landmarks in New York City are, you know, both illuminated and transformed, and you have... See, even the birds agree. And we want to...
Regina to the rescue. I'm sorry, Karen. I'm so sorry. Okay.
So thank you so much for speaking so eloquently, and here you are literally on the cutting edge of technology, but you also brought us back to the past, and we will never forget it. I have to say, it was absolutely the best show and tell we have ever had, and really, yeah, an outstanding lecture, so thank you very much, Dawn. Thank you.
I think it was the fire. Fire always goes along.
Yes. And I meant we'd like to make a presentation to you, Dawn. So, and to do so is Victoria Dengel, our Executive Director.
Thank you, Karen. And Dawn, I don't think I can say it much better than Karen said it. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for your generosity to the General Society of Mechanics and Tradesmen, to your contributions as a friend to us, as a second-time presenter. And when you started your welcoming remarks and saying thank you to Karen and Victoria in terms of the Artisan series, you know, it has been one of the greatest gifts. We're in season 8 of the Artisan Lecture series, and we showcase about, I would say, 10 artisans a year. And it's been one of the greatest gifts of our work here to showcase you and all of the artisans who keep our historic treasures alive, centuries worth of treasures brought to life by the hands and minds of the great artisans. So thank you so much for being among them and for being a friend to us. Thank you. So thank you, Dawn. So on behalf of the General Society of Mechanics and Tradesmen of the City of New York, founded 1785, we express our gratitude to Dawn Ladd, founder and president of Aurora Lampworks, for her participation in the General Society Artisan Lecture Series. So thank you, Dawn. Thank you. And normally we have someone become a lifetime member of the library, but Dawn is. So we're going to give her a special gift, which I'll let her, Dawn open. Here, let me hold that for you. Wow. There you go, Karen. Oh, no. Here.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. Beautiful.
So we don't have many of these left.
Oh, my gosh.
But it's from
beautiful.
our 225th
Oh, my gosh.
anniversary. And it was hand-drawn by Marisol de Luna, and it's a scarf with our hammer in hand by All Arts Do Stand that we adopted at our first meeting on November 17th, 1785. Robert Boyd, a blacksmith, who was our first president. And these are just some architectural elements of the building that were considered in creating this. So it's for you.
Taking this off.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you.
So appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks,
Oh,
Karen.
thank you very, very much, Dawn. Thank you. So literally from one artisan to another artisan, from the hand of Robert Boyd to yours, Dawn.
Wow,
Yeah,
what an honor. Thank
right.
you.
So anyway, the honor has been ours to have Aurora Lampworks here tonight, to both Dawn and her team. I want to thank you all for coming, and I apologize to the lady who didn't get to ask her question, but I'm sure Dawn will be happy to answer, and her team, many informal questions. And I hope you will now join us for a glass of wine, and thank you for coming to the final Artisan Lecture Series in the 8th series. But we hope to see you at the 9th series, so thank you very much.